Great. Let me just check online. Hold on, let me mute that. Yeah. Well, there we are. I'm going to change that background. Let me check online. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our channel. My name is Karen from Quantum Healing with Tina and Karen. And I'm here with my co-host, Tina. Hi, everyone. We're just welcoming everyone today to discuss a couple of topics about our reality. This is based on our experience in life and also in our sessions with Beyond Quantum Healing and as well as remote spirit release. So we just want to discuss that because, you know, we saw that we were kind of like brought onto Reddit, which I'm not familiar with, actually. Tina isn't either. So we were kind of surprised when we got a comment on one of our last videos that we posted. And yeah, that we're there, we're talking about it. And it's good to see that there are people talking about it because there is a lot of deception. And in our practice that we have done, we've seen a lot of trickery. But I mean, that's not to say that we weren't immune to it and, you know, at all. So we had to learn throughout our process and the evolution of our practice to get to where we are now and uncovering the truth of this world that we live in and the universe or whatever you want to call it. So for those of you who are joining us, who have joined our what's it called, our channel, thank you so much for coming on. It's a little bit of a leap, you know, when you see our numbers climb and we don't know how to deal with that because we tell people not to subscribe ever. So, but it's really nice that there are people that are jumping on that are interested in what we have to talk about. So for those of you who don't know us, I'm a medium. Tina is a facilitator, and we're both, what's it called? We're both, what are we?
Intuitive?
Yeah, intuitive. And we have we have two practices, one in Beyond Quantum Healing and remote spirit release. So if you don't know what that is, you can check out our website at quantumhealingwithtina.com, and you can just get all nosy and look it up. You can write us a message. We'll write you back as soon as we can. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask during the chat or email or however you feel that you want to connect with us. We're here and we're very open to hear what you have to say and hear your insights because we are always very open to receiving
information. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you guys hear us okay? I just want to make sure you can hear us okay. Helen. Hi, Helen. Can you hear us okay? Yeah, and I want to make the disclaimer too that we're not gurus. Like, we don't know everything. Like, we're just trying to find out the truth like everyone else. And, you know, we didn't start out this way. We started out believing, you know, when you're trained in quantum healing, you read the works of, you know, Michael Newton, who wrote Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls, and Dolores, whose work was extensive. You know, you learn through them that life on earth is a school and we're here to learn our lessons and, you know, eventually graduate, I guess, to higher and higher levels. And, you know, that kind of works for a while in the way that it kind of makes you take responsibility for your life, and that you may have created these soul contracts in order to learn. It did for me, at least, you know, having that belief that I signed up for all of this allowed me to take responsibility for my life instead of falling deeper into the mode of victim, which can easily happen. And the other thing I want to say about this topic, because it can feel really heavy. It can feel really heavy to talk about these things because, first of all, it challenges deeply held beliefs that people have about the afterlife and what happens after we leave the body. And, there's kind of a relief when you're believing that, once we leave these bodies, we return to heaven or the higher realms or whatever you want to call it. And, we're free and we don't have to worry about anything after we die and leave these bodies. But when you start talking about the potential for this to actually be some kind of trap that keeps us recycling back in, that can lead people to feel really negative and pessimistic and hopeless, really. And we don't want to talk about this through that lens because we are infinitely more powerful than we've been led to believe. And we've forgotten. We've just forgotten because of the veil of forgetfulness, like we talk about all the time. We come in with no memory at all of the things we've done before. So that kind of puts us at a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. But we're waking up now, like I'm seeing so many people like really waking up to the truth of what's happening here and the potential for our sovereignty and our power. And it's a really small group of us right now, but it's growing. And we saw that just by what happened through that post on Reddit and all the people that are like, talking about this subject. And it's really refreshing to see that because it is difficult in the position that we're in within our quantum healing community to approach these topics because they're really taboo. Don't you find?
Yeah, I feel like like in my journey to like one piping myself and speaking everything like authentically, I feel like a huge block there, especially like when you read on the, like the community talking and their conversations. And I feel like we were there at one point, but then we had evolved.
Right.
But it has to do also with the practice that we do in remote spirit release. That's pretty much the point, is to really give people the opportunity to become sovereign or, remove everything from their fields and give insights on their vulnerabilities so that they can kind of like do the healing, look at themselves, observe themselves, and then seal that up. Right.
It was really our journey into remote spirit release that led us down this path of learning more about the system, how it works. We've done over 500 sessions so far between remote spirit release and beyond quantum healing. And what we were noticing was that our clients in, quantum healing sessions were repeating over and over and over again these really traumatic lifetimes. Like, our clients didn't seem to have these other experiences where they were like super cosmic or otherworldly or anything like that. Really, it was just these repeated earthly traumatic lifetimes. And you have to question at some point, why would someone choose this over and over and over again? Like, okay, one traumatic lifetime, fine. You want to learn from that, through suffering or whatever. That's understandable. But when you see it repeating over and over and over again, and it's not just one lifetime that they've experienced that thing, it's several or many. And, that's what made us start questioning, is this earth really a school? Like, is this really a school? Or is there something else going on here?
Yeah. I think it's partly school and then partly trapped. So just understanding the entrapment, but using the school to your advantage to get out of the trap.
Right. Exactly that. And I think that's a really important point, because with that, using it to our advantage within every negative situation, there's always an opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. Even with attached entities, we can take that and flip it and use it as an opportunity for growth, for our soul growth, in order to evolve and expand while we're here in the physical body. That's how we're going to level up and have the potential for escaping the trap. If we're just sitting down here in victimhood, like, oh my God, blaming everybody, this place is a prison and all that kind of stuff, which I can see how people can take on that mentality. But it's like you have to kind of evolve from that and evolve yourself, evolve your soul while you're here in the body so that you have the potential of leaving. Because if you're leaving with that negative mindset, it's going to be very easy to get sucked back in because you're not going to be powerful enough in your sovereignty to actually get through whatever it is on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we do see like what the point of vulnerability is in our remote spirit release. And we should take advantage of that actually. Like when you're getting your reading and knowing what it is, then you can take the opportunity to look at it.
Right.
And say like, okay, why? And you can go deeper to the root. Which is why I like the practice so much, is because like we do, some people are really fine after clearing and they can move on with their lives. And, they do feel like either very quick shifts or a very subtle shift over time.
Mm-hmm.
But some people just get really stuck and aren't able to move past it. Like the human part of it is just really hindering them from moving forward. And so that's why it's really good too, with the quantum healing sessions, to go deeper into the root, like setting the intention to go deep in there. Let's heal it. Let's look at it and heal it.
And information from in the quantum healing sessions are coming from your own higher self. Mm-hmm. It's not coming from us. We're just holding that space for you to tap into your own higher knowing, your own higher being. That's where all your answers are. It's not coming from me. It's not coming from Karen. It's coming from yourself. And another thing I want to talk about in regards to quantum healing sessions is that if you're going to have one, you should have it with a practitioner that is informed about the trickery, false light, manipulation, all of those types of things, because beings can come through and pose as your spirit guide and really be a reptilian underneath of that, Yeah. And I mean, we see that all the time. I see that in sessions all the time where you see this information coming through and, it sounds really nice. It looks really nice on the surface. But there's, when you have a higher discernment, you'll start to see the really subtle trickery and manipulation that's happening there. We've had, newer practitioners come to us who, started their practice without knowing about protection or, how energy works, how these beings work. And, they do a couple sessions and the next thing you know, they're being run by negative entities. Yeah. So when we're doing this work and tapping into the quantum field, we have to have a high level of discernment and know who the beings are that are speaking through, your client. Yes. And question those beings, question everything. If there's one truth about this world or realm or matrix, whatever you want to call it, it's that you have to question everything.
Everything.
Even if it's an angel.
Yeah.
Especially if it's an angel.
Yeah. There's so many beings. There's and they say like, oh, I'm 12th dimension. So what?
Right.
Everything is corrupt.
And are they really they really 12th dimension? And if they are, like, this system is corrupted all the way up into the 12th dimension or whatever dimension, who really knows? But it's just really questioning everything. And I'll tell you some of the things that came through in our sessions that made us start questioning.
Yes, that's a good topic.
Yeah. Well, one was really getting deep into remote spirit release and understanding how these negative entities work, how false light beings work, and they can tell you, really beautiful and amazing things, but there's always that, 10%, or the lie by omission is a big one. They lie a lot by omission, leaving things out. And the information that will come through is like, it might feel really high vibrational, but it's never grounded in reality.
Right. That's the whole thing. I think that's really the big trick. Does that feel like it's grounded into reality?
Right. Like the whole idea about 5D.
Yeah.
And, ascending to 5D and all that kind of stuff. Do you see that in your reality right now? Because I don't.
No. And a good way though, if you're really stuck in that, because in my world, like my people aren't even close, to be honest. So I mean, I look at that reality outside of myself and be like, can I actually see like people that I know in my life, accepting this truth? No. They don't even, it's not even within their consciousness to even think of that.
Right, because the new age is a whole other trap set for people coming out of religion and awakening.
Mm-hmm.
So, the beings that are in control on this planet knew that the energy was going to shift, right? Like it's been prophesized for forever. The energy is shifting, we know that, and it's ripe for allowing that awakening to happen. And so they're going to suppress that in every way they can.
Mm-hmm.
And so they created this new age, these new age ideas as a way to kind of capture those people. And we were there too. We had to go through that, but some people never come out of it, and they adopt those belief systems as their own and get stuck there in that.
Yeah.
And what we never want to do is get stuck in that. We want to evolve out of it, question everything.
Yeah.
So, in our sessions where we're seeing people reincarnating over and over and over again into these traumatic lives, and I'm just like in the back of my mind, like, this is weird, like, why would a soul choose to do this? And then one of the first things that we saw, and looking back on it, so Karen acts as a surrogate. Like if for our clients that can't go into hypnosis themselves, so she acts as a surrogate to bring through their higher self. So when we were first practicing, just practicing, just diving in and practicing, we knew nothing about nothing. Like we literally knew nothing about protection or energy or any of it. So
yeah,
we were,
it's exciting,
right?
Like it's exciting when because we were also on the whole like YouTube looking at the what's being channeled, what's coming in, and we're like, well, we could do that ourselves.
Right.
So yeah. So I mean, like we've seen that and been there, and then like a lot of the things that came through, like what Tina's gonna continue with the story, it's like questionable. But I don't think we would have questioned it. But all the red flags were there. But I feel like it was very divinely orchestrated by our guides or whoever, our higher selves, to be like, okay, like you're going to reflect back and be like, whoa, that was not good.
Right. And this is what happened. Like reflecting back on the session I'm about to tell you about, we were like, oh my God, that was part of the trap.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So Karen was a surrogate for me how a quantum healing session works is usually we will view a past life that comes forward. We'll go through that life, understand the lessons and why you experienced that lifetime, what it was supposed to show you, what you're supposed to learn from it, all of those types of things. So we did that, and we saw a life that I had as a native girl whose whole tribe was kind of taken out by these white men that came through. It was a very emotionally touching session to bear witness to, and to know that I had lived through that, potentially, if that was even really my life. But it did feel resonant. So what we did next was we went backwards in time. We went to the in-between, to the lives between lives, what, Michael Newton coined as lives between lives, the in-between, the afterlife. So we went there and we were met with a council, right, in a room.
Oh, is it a council or your three?
There were three guides.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The three guides. There was Marcus, Alexa, and another one.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I just remember what they look like.
Right. But we talked to the female Alexa.
Which is AI.
Which is AI, Alexa. Yeah. And she had red eyes.
So many red flags.
So many red flags, but we didn't know at the time. Like I thought it was a little bit weird, but I'm like, okay, in in the spirit of, accepting everyone and we're all one and that.
It's cute, right?
Yeah.
But that's a trap, like that's bypassing. We're all one. So like you have to accept the murderer.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you don't.
So Alexa went on to tell us that I chose this life now with all the suffering I've endured through trauma and chronic pain and illness, that I chose all of this and, relationships with narcissists and things like that. I chose all this because I wanted to, my soul wanted to ascend quickly, is what she said. And not only that, but because I'm so connected with the collective energies, it would help the collective ascend quickly too.
Tricks.
Yeah, tricks.
Those are tricks.
And tell them about what that looked like in the room with the guides and how that planning, what you saw there.
That planning system. Well, I first met with them it felt like a conference room. So it felt very official.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay.
And they had suits on, didn't they?
Marcus did. But yeah, they dressed up like really professionally, which is probably like the Men in Black. So that's what we saw, So we went there, they talked about what Tina just said, and then they showed, like we went back to how to pick. Go ahead.
Oh, they also said after this lifetime, I would be a guide for others on earth.
Oh, see, lifting the ego.
Right. Yeah, really feeding the ego. Like, you're amazing. You're going to be a guide next time,
Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay, I guess I have to come back, but in another way.
Right.
Another trap. So yeah, we went to I guess what you would call the Akash, but not really. There was a library that was specific to her and her soul, her oversoul. And we were able to look at books. And when you look at the books, it's like you could pick a life, whatever. And I remember opening up the book, and then there was this picture that would pop up, like a GIF, I guess. And so I was able to see, I think it was a lifetime that you were in Paris, you were smoking, you were, being Parisian. I don't know exactly what happened in that lifetime, but it was just kind of showing me little snippets.
Mm-hmm.
And
they were like moving pictures, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Tina was asking, how do we pick, or I don't remember what the context was, but how do we pick how we go into our next life, or how did I get into these lives? And so because the understanding that we had was that she, really wanted to accelerate her ascension. So that's why she picked problem after problem, and, chronic illness, and narcissists, and all the things that happen that could possibly happen.
Yeah, everything that could possibly happen in one life was all packed in here because I wanted to ascend so quickly.
Right. So they showed me this technology, or it was a computer or something like that.
Like holographic, right?
Yeah, holographic. So I was able to move things like this, how they show it in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to pick okay, I want to pick these problems. So it creates an algorithm about the problems you want to have. I guess if you want to be male or female, that's an option too. Where in the world, or no, things like that. Okay. Things you want to experience in your next life.
Right. Because Australia was an option for where I was going to live.
Because when you pick all these things that you want to create for yourself, it gives you the options of the lifetimes or the lives that you can incarnate in. So one of them was a lifetime or a potential in Australia to experience whatever it was. So I think you had two or three options or something like that you could pick from.
And my family members were there too, weren't they?
I don't remember the details.
They were
of that.
Involved somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. It was such a long time ago, but I mean, just seeing those highlights of things. And then you think back, because now, again, we've done so many sessions, and we just listened to one that was really profound that we're going to share eventually on our site and on YouTube, just so that you can hear how far, I mean, it in between that session that we did for Tina versus this one. And then all the work that we had done in between, and understanding, the darkness that exists in this whole matrix.
Right. So looking back on that, what were the red flags? The red flags, number one, that she had red eyes.
Yeah, big one. Didn't you hear that like not that long after, like red eyes? And I was like, ooh, like
right. Not
kind of freaked me out a little bit because I'm well, I was channeling then or whatever it was. I don't even know what that was, but it's like, okay, well, how do we know? You know, if they're coming through, like, how do we make an X and be like, I don't want to talk to that? Or, you know, because I was still like, we're kind of still in the teeter totter of like, but they say that
it's a spirit guide. It's a spirit guide.
Yeah, all the words, you know, that we're just like, oh, well, it's a guide. It's a higher dimensional being. It's all of this and that. I mean, my background is that I'm a star seed from Sirius, and I met my family there. I met the light council there. That was, you know, and I don't know if that's all 100% real. Like I was channeling them, but I don't know how real that was. I mean, like how legit and of, you know, the light side they were in.
Right.
I don't know. But thankfully we didn't get into that trajectory because we would probably be already overtaken and riddled with like tons of entities, because I don't think we would have found RSR.
No, because I started studying spirit release, right? Like as we were doing those practice sessions, when I started studying spirit release, I became a spirit release therapist to know how to do it during hypnosis.
Right.
But then we started having people that needed spirit release, but couldn't do hypnosis. So that's why I started looking into the remote spirit release method. And that's where we learned like a ton.
Yeah.
When we really started to practice that. So you choose your parents, Helen, you choose your financial status. You pretty much, so whatever family you're going to be born into, that's your choice.
But that's not always the case.
Right.
That is not always the case. I think there are some souls that aren't degraded as we had seen, or tricked into the whole recycling system back in to incarnate. But again, they wipe your memory, so you have no freaking idea what you're coming into. You don't know what the world is like in that state, you know, how we're evolving into where we are now, or what it will be in the next few years or so. So yeah, they wipe you. And left in the dark.
Right. And what we're saying here is we think that what we saw there was part of this system too, was the higher realms that we saw there were part of this matrix. So it was part of kind of a trick to keep us, to keep me reincarnating back in.
Right. And I think even for me saying like, oh, you know, this is your one life and you volunteered to help the thing. I don't know if that's real. They might have wiped my memory real good that I don't remember any human lifetime here, because I don't. So they showed me actually in my session, like when I had my own session, that they had implanted a lot of memories of other people's lives so that I could further integrate myself as a star seed into a human body and have a human experience. I don't know if that's real, if that's even a thing. But again, it's questionable, but it's good to be able to question that, because again, you don't want to hold on to this absolute truth that we have no proof of.
Right.
But at least to get your mind, you know, rolling with it and not having to attach with it to say like, yeah, I'm an indigo and I'm a star seed from this planetary system and all the things. Like, who cares?
Right.
Like,
you're human now.
You're human now, and they don't give a shit what you do if you work at the bank. Like, oh, well, I work from, you know, I'm from Sirius. Okay. So what? You know, it serves no purpose to you here, really. Like the labels.
The labels. People get really like caught up in the labels and those kinds of things. And I think it's important just to say again, you know, you don't take anything that we say for 100% fact. Like, please.
This is based on our experience.
It's only our experience, and we're sharing with the hopes of just igniting the conversation, because this is a really important conversation to have. Yes. Because this feels to me, at least for me, I'll speak personally, like this is my lifetime where I'm like, I'm getting the F out of here. No matter what I have to do. And I'm going to uncover every truth I possibly can in order to make that happen. I'm really coming into power and sovereignty. And I know that's true for a lot of you that are going to watch this video as well, you know, and we're open to hearing if you've had any experiences with these types of things, near death experiences, hypnosis sessions, anything, traveling, yeah, we're open to hearing that. So with that session and all the things that they told us about, how I planned this lifetime because, and took on all the suffering because I wanted to ascend quickly and then come back and be a guide for other Earth humans.
You are technically a guide too in this life,
right.
For me at least.
Right. But this is the second half of my life. The first half of my life, I would have not been able to do that. I do think that my higher self walked in that NDE I had.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed everything.
Yeah.
That's when I started healing really quickly. Like I was struggling uphill because I had the belief that we can heal ourselves. We absolutely can heal ourselves. Our bodies can regenerate. They're healing themselves all the time. If we can kind of just get out of the way and support the body and give it what it needs, it will heal itself. That's 100%. But I was struggling and, coming out of an abusive relationship and all those kinds of things. So really, it was kind of an uphill battle for me. And I felt like every time I took a step forward, I would get pulled back. And I found out later that that was because I had entities attached. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. So a lot of people have entities.
Yeah.
Whether you know about it or not, like we're some way, somehow manipulated in some way. So it's, you can't really say like, they talk about free will a lot, but I mean, if you're being manipulated, that's not really free will.
Right. Even if you're being manipulated by an earthbound, what we call earthbound souls in spirit release is a soul who has left the human body after death, but not fully crossed over into the afterlife and gets stuck here on the earth plane and then can attach to another human being. These earthbound souls can and do cause a lot of physical, mental, and emotional symptoms within their hosts. They act kind of like parasites, even though most of the time they're just lost. Sometimes they don't even know they're dead, can't find their own light, yada, 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 all the things like, when humans die in a traumatic way, they might be in so much shock that they can't even make it to the tunnel of light. And they just get stuck here.
Yeah.
So yeah, free will in this 3D earth, the way it is right now is questionable because there's so much manipulation that happens. So much. The mind control is off the charts. So unless someone is truly sovereign and has healed themselves and worked through all that, removed all of their attachments, then there's less free will. I'll just say it that way. There's less free will. I just had a thought come in. I can't remember it now. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was bringing the thought back in. Yeah, let's see who's here.
Yeah, energy draining. That's what these entities will do. They drain your energy, whether it's an earthbound soul or a dark force entity, astral beings that get attached, parasites. All of these things can really drain your energy and keep you from moving forward. They can insert negative looping thought patterns and keep you in fear and worry and even, suicidal thoughts. It can get really bad if you're not in your own power. And in order to even begin to get rid of them, you have to recognize that they're there. And number two, you have to take back consent. Because everything works on consent most of the time. I won't say that consent is always needed because it does seem like there are times where they just screw with us and there's no consent involved at all.
Yeah, so, they really don't give a shit.
Yeah. No, they don't.
No.
So another session I had that was really interesting that made me start wondering about the afterlife and lives between lives as well. It was interesting because it was stereotypical lives between lives. So when we did the past life exploration, She was a young man, had a pretty normal life, left that body, and she found herself as like a tiny spark of light flying through the stars somewhere. It's like if you've seen the movie Soul, where they leave the body and they
End up on a conveyor belt.
end up on the conveyor belt. That's what it was like, because as she was traveling through the stars, I'll just say, or wherever the space that she was, there were other little sparks of light with her. And they were all talking in different languages because they had all come from different parts of the earth and had died around the same time she did. So they were just traveling really quickly through this space all together in this group. And they landed in this like beautiful garden space. And my client was met with a guide. The guide's name was Grace. And Grace told her that this was a holding pattern. This was a holding place. That next she was going to, reunite with her family and then go on to have her life review. So every one of the souls that was there kind of had to hang out in this little garden space and wait their turn. So she does. She waits there, and then she meets with her family, talks to them for a little bit, and then goes through the gates. Did I say it looked like an Emerald City?
Yeah.
So beyond the garden, there were gates, like the gates of heaven, right? And beyond that was this, what she described as like a Emerald City. She described it as looking like Emerald City. So we met with the family at the gate. Then we went through into the Emerald City, into this inside space. And her guide was there guiding her through. And next came her life review. So she walked into this room where she says there is a throne.
It sounds like impending doom.
Well, it was interesting because there was a throne, and she kept saying something about the Father or God. She said this was God's throne, and at the right hand of God was Jesus. But she couldn't see God. She couldn't see God. She just knew he was there. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so she comes from a Catholic background. She has the Christian beliefs about God the Father and Jesus. So of course, this is what she's going to see. But she was being blocked from her life review. She wasn't allowed to see it. And God told her to get out of this room.
Red flag.
Yeah.
Right.
And it didn't matter like how many questions I asked, they would not give us access to any information at all. They kicked us out.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. Well, yeah, that's it. Like we hear all the time about, tragedies and then like what God would do this and what God would do that. Yeah, exactly. What God would do that. This God, the Matrix God, or the whatever is in this, creating this inversion.
Right. So what we've learned since is that, what we think of as the ultimate source or the inexpressible one, the one that we're all connected to, is not the God of this world. The creator of this world was an archon. And I know that that's probably who that father figure was in that room, was that whatever this archon was, because listening to a lot of Michael Newton's work too, when they would be in that room and even like when he would ask the question, well, what about the ultimate creator? What about source? And they would have like this fear kind of come over him when approaching that subject, as if they weren't allowed to talk about the creator of this world. It's just very interesting, and a lot of things to think about. But it was, looking back, I don't always know in the moment, but like looking back on these sessions, I can kind of see like that what she experienced there was exactly like what they show you in the movie Soul, where he goes on to that conveyor belt and then ends up in like some, beautiful place. And then there's these other beings there that are there to kind of like guide them along, right? These higher dimensional beings.
Yeah.
But the question is, are these beings, are these spirit guides just a part of this whole matrix trap in the higher realms? That's the question. Like, are they just there to, just herd us back in?
Right.
And what they do is they will, you're not completely free of ego when you leave this body because, from all the stories and sessions I've listened to and heard, it's like they're still, feeding your ego. Well, they'll say to you, really playing on your heartstrings, not even so much your ego, but really your heartstrings, and saying, well, manipulation, don't you want to go back in and, help? You have the opportunity as a healer to help out this family who really needs you.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, this family is going to they're not going to evolve. They're just, you're just going to get traumatized.
Yeah. Re-traumatized. They use like our own like wounding, codependence, and all of that stuff to keep us entrapped here, like to be like, okay, you need to help people, you need to blah blah blah, right, without giving us the guidelines of like how to, stay sovereign, how to protect ourselves, how to set boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really think that when we come in here, we have no idea the level of fuckery that we're going to be faced with.
No.
Because also when you're faced with that love that people experience when we go to the other side,
it's like another love bite.
Yeah, it kind of acts like an anesthetic, and you just kind of forget all the things that all the pain and suffering that you experienced here.
Definitely.
And we've seen that, when we're doing clearings and false light beings come forward, they will give people a really good feeling. They will make them feel like that love that washes over them.
Mm-hmm. But that's just hitting a wound too,
right?
Of feeling loved and being accepted.
Right. And feeling connected. People want to connect with higher beings or beings outside of themselves. And that makes them feel special. If they're connecting with higher beings, that makes them feel special. So, that's a vulnerability point.
Well, we should talk about like when I was channeling and I got all like funny.
What happened?
When I was like, I don't need to learn no more.
Oh, yeah.
See, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm glad that happened.
Yeah.
Because that's something to fucking question.
Yeah.
Like
I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Like really like feeding.
Yeah.
Taking over. Something taking over and speaking through me, or, and working together to be like, yeah, no, I don't know. That was almost like possession, almost like, but that's it, like giving up yourself and not even questioning what you're channeling or what's coming through.
Yeah.
Like you're completely stunned. So I had an arc stunner. Like it was just stun, like a stun, because you're like, okay.
Right, because whatever that was saying that you didn't need to do any more work, that you learned everything, that you were just holding the light now and
just gonna eat. Well, you think about that. Yeah, no, it was just really eye-opening, and again, really grateful that happened, because it had led us into
discernment.
That was it. That was like the discernment, like step up.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like, okay, what is that? Yeah. What was that? Who are you? And what are you doing? But people can get into that, mm-hmm. like where they stop questioning what they're channeling. I feel you could start off like anything. If you're genuine, you start off with it really good. And then somehow, the same story always happens. They get corrupted. Something gets corrupted. Something happens that kind of throws you off the track. So yeah,
we have to question everything. Everything.
That should be the title. Question everything.
And people get offended, when you start.
They get offended. They're like, what are you talking about? I've been like, Metatron and I are besties. But, oh God, question that. Yeah.
Because of course, again, we only speak from our own understanding at this point in time.
Yes.
Our understanding is always and constantly evolving into the more we learn, the more we know. So, at this point, we know that this whole system was created by negative beings, the whole universal system. And if you look at the work of Ashayana Dean, it will validate that. She talks about how this universe was corrupted. The main controller of this universe is Metatron himself. And that's why, he shows up in a lot of channelings, because he's the
Right.
the big guy, the controller.
Yeah.
And people, when they connect with him, they will talk about that feeling of love that they have and all those kinds of things. And I think that is real, but he's the enforcer of this matrix system. He's not in the business of helping you break free from that. So when we're connecting with higher beings, a lot of a big question that comes up is, are there positive beings in this system? And
I hope so.
I do think there are. I think they're outnumbered. I do think they're outnumbered. There are very few beings that we connect with. We connect with our own higher selves.
But we go through a very strict process in connecting.
Right.
Like, we have a protocol in how we do it. We have passwords, we have checks, we have to check within our own vessel if it feels like there's a connection, heart connection, especially.
Yeah.
Because with our guides, like we go through a step-by-step process, and they could appear to me like looking exactly how they're supposed to, but if I don't feel it in myself that the connection is genuine, I'm not going to connect with it.
But that's what they always told you. Like,
yeah,
this is really you. Like, you have to feel through that. And that's what a balanced guide is always going to tell you. When we're connecting with these Luciferic beings, these false light beings, they're not going to tell you how to protect yourself and how energy works. And, they're out to make you feel good so that they can suck you in and, work through you. Then you get attachments, you start, things just go downhill when we're connecting with false light beings. And the number one thing, if you are connecting with any beings outside of yourself, always tell them, command them, demand them to show you their true form. They won't always, but you might be surprised at what is truly behind that, angel that is presented to you.
To a certain level, you're going to have to detach from what you want it to be and what it's going to show you. And another thing too is that you have to not be afraid, because that's it. I think a lot of the people in the community are terrified, which is why they just kind of like stick to what feels good and be like, well, no, I'm just going to see what I want, and then not question it.
Right. Yeah. Again, because even in, the spirit, especially in the spiritual community, like you're bumping up against belief systems.
Yeah.
And
that's a big thing.
Cognitive dissonance. When you present someone with evidence that what they believe so wholeheartedly might not be true, that really triggers people, So that's why we've come out really gently with this kind of information, I feel, because of the triggering that it can create.
Yeah, we had to learn it firsthand.
Right.
And it was shitty. Of course, it's shitty in the moment,
Yeah.
But in the long run, like, if you're just willing to keep going at it, staying humble, staying like in your body, staying as grounded as possible in it, and not getting so carried away out there and, astral traveling and talking to all the angels, and you take for granted what's real in this world, like what is happening and how manipulated the whole thing is. You could see it in the world that we are in now, just through current events, how everything is being manipulated, how, like,
right. Because why?
Because you freaking see it.
because what you see in the 3D already, it starts on the fourth dimension.
Right.
That's where it starts. It's trickling down. So all the fuckery that's happening here in 3D is already started. It's coming down. It's coming down from the higher realms.
Right. Exactly.
So that right there should make you question.
Yes.
If we're seeing the amount of stuff we're seeing here in physicality, imagine what's happening up in the higher realms. Just because a realm is higher, just because a being is higher, does not mean they're not corrupted.
Yeah.
Demons are higher dimensional beings.
I feel like we just, in our minds, because of the hierarchy, that's a program for you to be like, well, it's higher, it's better, they have more power, they're more light. No.
Right.
No, you have to get rid of that belief system and just treat everything as equal, and then question it and then move on.
Right. Because what our guidance has always told us is that, stop looking outside of yourselves.
Always. It's always been that. And always the lesson was, at every turn we would go, it would always be like, it always comes back to you. That's it. Thank you for coming to our show tonight. But that's it. It's always about you.
Right.
Us, myself. Nothing else outside of me.
Right. Because like I said in the last video, nothing else outside of you is going to be able to give you the answers. Only you have the answers. And that's the point of doing, a quantum healing session, is to connect with your own self. It's not, an angel is not going to step in and do the work for you and give you the answers. You have the answers within you. That's I think too, that's how our work is somewhat different from others, is that we really encourage our clients to connect with themselves, not to be calling in, other worldly beings to give them the answers.
I will never, ever, ever tell you that. No, it's always come within and observe, like, look at yourself, see how you interact with others, see how others make you feel, see how you're reacting to, other people, it'll tell you everything you need to know about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that's why we're seeing these things like the traumatic lives that repeat and things like that. It's because it's coming it's coming from inside of them. Mm-hmm. And not some bullshit information from a false light being.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. If anyone have any questions?
I heard that, Helen. I don't know. We don't really know what's true about that.
Oh. I think we're just always looking for something to soothe us. Mm-hmm. It's easier that way. That way we hold on to some kind of that, what do you call it? Hopium? Like hope for something. It is good to have hope, but there's not going to be any, there's not going to be any hope if you're not helping yourself.
Right.
That's the whole thing. There's no savior. There's nothing outside of you. As much as you can connect with someone and they can really guide you and love you through your process, you're the only one who can really walk yourself over.
Right.
You're the one who has to walk. They can't just drag you over and be like, all right, I'm healed. No, there's so much more to it. So many deeper layers. And it shows you in so many different ways and faces and everything that you have to be hyper vigilant about it. And think, and that you're done. No, you're never done.
Never done. Yeah. Yeah. And just observing, being the observer of yourself and your patterns and the people that show up in your life and things like that, without judging it, from, coming from a neutral.
That's hard for me. I judge myself all the
time. Let me see. I want the truth, whether it's scary or not. Crazy chicken lady. Like that.
That's a cute name.
Yeah, me too. Like, that's what I've always said. Like, we're on the search for the truth.
Yes. It's always opening up that door into the, throwing out what you know in this now moment, or think And then if something else comes in and you feel through it and you're like, okay, that actually feels resonant, then you can take that old belief, toss it out,
Right.
and evolve.
Right.
And maybe you might go back and be like, you know what? But again, I don't think that everything that happens, like, you know, like for us, like trying to figure out everything, we always think that it's going to be one thing. It's only one thing, but there's so many things happening that it's not just one thing.
Right.
It's everything. So I do believe that there are souls that go on a conveyor belt and they get tricked into or whatever. I don't know. And then we have seen, on the contrary, souls that have been so highly traumatized. This is a session that I really want to share that we've seen, which gives the good contrast, a really good contrast. So such a degraded soul, so traumatized from multiple lifetimes, to the point that the soul is so degraded in the body that it oozes out of itself and is collected by the dark energies, put in like what I guess described as a petri dish or something that was vacuum sealed, so that it's just concentrated trauma in there and not even left to heal. There's no time in between. It's just like, all right, let's just take this and put it in another life and fuck it up again and take it again. So,
But even in between that, they were feeding from the
yeah.
torment and torture that soul was feeling, the terror that man, well, he was a man in that life, had a really difficult life, died in a war on the battlefield. And talk about what you saw, how they came, what you saw when the men had died on the battlefield.
Well, there was a lot of like dark energies that were flying around. It felt very like dark in terms of like energy, actually physically, because the sky was like dark. There was bats flying around, like there were things going on. And it's like I think before the person actually died, they were already gathering, like taking
Yeah.
the soul out.
Yeah, you said they were already taking the soul out of the bodies before it died.
Yeah, and they would fly with it to like some mountaintop and some creepy mountain and like feast on it or whatever, you know? So it's really heavy. And they would what other life things do they do? I don't remember. They got bubbles. They put them in bubbles. I don't
Yeah.
remember like what the
The
timeline
one,
was.
the first one we experienced, yeah, you said there was like a fishing line and the soul was confined in a bubble. It was just energy. It was like a yellowy orange energy confined within this bubble. And there
Mhm.
were others in the bubbles too. And that this had happened more than once. That's when they put those souls on the conveyor belt.
Oh yeah, another conveyor belt.
Another conveyor
So
belt.
it feels like, you know, there is a conveyor belt thing, but it really depends. There's so many factors involved in terms of the human and the world that we live in. So, you know, how some people are more susceptible than others to be either, I think that's why like the NPCs that are of this world are probably from either what degraded souls or what open vessels. They're just here to exist. They're not here to learn. They're not here to do anything really. It's just to be part of the density or adding to the density and adding to the drama, I guess, which will keep the vibration lower. That's why they come into our lives and they keep us trapped in a way. You know, some of us are actually trapped in our lives and not knowing how to get out because we don't have that empowerment inside yet. So there's so many multiple things that are happening to us or, you know, or for us, depends how you look at it. You know, it depends if you want to shift that perception, be like, it was all for me so I could get the fuck out of here.
Right.
As opposed to, oh, you know, like poor me, like
Right.
that's not going to help you.
Right.
It is good to, you know, it is okay to have a process and feel sorry for yourself. I feel sorry for myself all the time. But then being like, okay, it's too much now. Like I'm not moving. I'm not growing. They're probably eating at my soul right now. I'm probably being possessed, you know, or being taken advantage of because I'm keeping myself in that lower vibration. But that doesn't mean that you don't feel what you feel. It doesn't mean that you say like, okay, well, I can't stay sad or I can't be sad. You could be sad, but don't stay there. You can evolve or work through it, get up in the morning, do your thing, and just try to, you know, but when you feel it, feel it. That's the whole thing. Because the reason why a lot of people are attracting these negative energies is because they're just stuffing all their feelings down, not being able to feel it fully and through, which is also causing sickness to the body, which is also another vulnerability point. There's so many things that are
Just what keeps
happening
your vibration low.
simultaneously. Yes. So it's just hypervigilance. Embracing your humanness is a big thing. We don't want to be human. We don't. But there's other things, like switching your perception to see the beauty of the life that we are in as much as you can. Perspective is everything. Gratitude
Right.
is everything. It helps to at least give you some of that real true hope, not false hope, but hope in just saying like, okay, well, be here one day at a time, and just do my best today and try to gain that, at least that,
Momentum.
that momentum of like having confidence in yourself, knowing that we're here, understanding why we're here, how we got tricked into it, but not holding on to being a victim of that. It's just, again, the ultimate goal for us, at least, is to get the hell out of here. So you
Right.
want to fucking work hard at yourself
Yeah.
to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that victimhood, that negativity is the very thing that's feeding this system and keeping it alive.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to do that
Nope.
and get trapped into anger and like all that kind of stuff. If those things do come up, of course, feel through them, like she said, but don't get stuck there and
Yeah.
like in that victimhood, because that is the worst place to be in this matrix, because you will keep attracting things that what's it called? That validate that victimhood for you.
Mm-hmm.
The more you stay there, you will attract more and more.
Attract. Yeah. Helen says, do we have then multiple of us existing on various levels if this is holographic universe? Okay, well, what we've seen in sessions is that there are multiple, like we have aspects of ourselves that exist in, parallel universes, past lives, perhaps future lives. I don't think we've really seen so much future lives, but mainly past lives and parallel lives. We have seen clones. Yeah. And that's another thing too, part of the that's just another video. But the thing with the clones too that we've seen, because like we do offer soul retrieval in our sessions, that comes with the whole RSR package thing, that we do soul retrieval. But what we've learned recently is that some of us have clones that are also there to be used. Used. They can exist in this now moment. So in this physical world, which I guess is, what do we call it? Like the doppelganger type thing, like that's real. And for them to experience whatever it is. So when we do soul retrieval, because it is a copy paste of yourself, your soul essence and everything, we have to be very clear about what we're calling back. So, like in that case, if I'm doing a soul retrieval for someone, I got to make sure that it is of your soul essence and not the clone, because we could be calling back your clone because it pretty much is a replica, an exact replica. And so when that integration happens with the clone, you could experience their trauma and take it on as your own when it's not true.
Yeah.
So we have like a whole system of like just making sure that there's no clone parts. It kind of looks like a quilt to me.
Yeah.
And how there's patches. So I see the clone patches and I'm like, rip, rip, rip. Like we're just calling back what is of the essence of our clan in question. And then we integrate, we heal and we integrate.
Yeah. Yeah, clones, that's another big topic where, I mean,
we don't really know as much.
We don't know that much about it, just that it's been coming up a lot. Yeah. So back to that life, this poor guy that you were talking about, the life where they were trapped in, the souls were trapped in the bubble. That poor guy was like, he had like stage 4 cancer in this lifetime. And what the higher self said was, because he had been trapped and recycled back in so many times without any rest in between, that the soul was so damaged that it caused a toll on the body. Like it was actually difficult for the body to house that soul because of the toxicity of the soul, because it was carrying all of that, the toxicity from the torment and torture and trauma that he experienced in those multiple recycled lifetimes without any rest in between, all like put in and compounded into one body. And then that body is having difficulty handling that energy because it's so toxic.
Mhm.
So that's what the higher self said is creating a lot of mental illness and cancer that
Yeah.
we're seeing today. That a lot of that is happening to
Totally.
souls that are degraded or traumatized, that haven't had the time to heal in between, right?
Yeah. And also, what we also learned in that
Mhm.
session too. Yeah, go ahead.
About the schizophrenia.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
exactly.
talk about that.
Yeah, they're so. We learned too that the degraded souls that are there or trapped can also be used by the dark energies to create schizophrenia, or what we coin as schizophrenia, in others. So it's like sometimes you do see in some schizophrenics that they have like that other personality that is more dominant or trying to come through. That's part of that could be a degraded soul. It could be an earthbound. It could be a number of things. But we saw in, like they said it in this case, that they could come in and be implanted in someone else's body, and they're just kind of fighting for dominance.
Mm-hmm. We saw that in one of our clients that came for a clearing. Um, she had a whole group of earthbound souls that were attached to her, but there was one that was like dominant and in charge of all the others.
Oh, yeah.
And they were all fighting for like space within her own vessel, in her own consciousness. So she was constantly hearing these voices that were literally driving her crazy. And then so we saw that, and then we removed them from her field. And then we got further information in this session to see how the negative entities actually do this to humans on purpose. They round up these degraded souls and insert them into a perfectly healthy human being, and create that state of what is labeled schizophrenia, when it's really the spirits that are creating those voices.
Mhm.
And this is actually why Dr. Palmer created the method of remote spirit release, so it could be used on people who have are hearing voices, and delusional people that are too mentally sick to do hypnosis sessions. This is why the remote spirit release was created, so that a medium could remote view and see what is happening there and be able to remove those entities from this person to give them relief. Now, this can be very complicated too, because if this has been happening for a long time, there could be layers, is what we've seen. So we'll remove whatever's there in the top layer and then have to kind of keep digging through the energy. We just had a BQH session the other day where a woman had thousands of duende attached to her. I mean, it's all energy, so not only thousands of the duende, but there were other beings attached as well. And this can easily happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are like hearing voices that aren't, or that you think are your own, they might not be yours. They could be something that is attached to you, creating those voices.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
How easy they are to implant things.
Yeah. I don't know Jerry Marzinski. Yeah, that aligns with what we've seen. That was Dr. Palmer's work too. We trained with Dr. Terence Palmer from the UK, and that was his work too, that he noticed that his patients weren't getting better with just typical treatment and therapy and things like that. So that's how he got into doing remote spirit release, and seeing that these voices were actually being caused by other entities that were attached to them. And he has a lot of interesting videos on his channel He's gone now, unfortunately. He just passed away in what, January? January 1st?
Yeah. December 31st.
Oh, New Year's Eve, December 31st. Yeah. But he posted a lot of his sessions, which are really interesting. And the one that he did, I mean, this guy suffered for 30 years with those voices, and one session they were gone. So, yeah, the work can be really profound. And it is true that, we've seen it too. Most people with some kind of mental illness, or what's labeled as mental illness, is a spiritual affliction. And it can be any number of things that are actually happening there. But yeah, that's absolutely, and I say this all the time in tribal cultures, when people were exhibiting these kinds of signs, they knew that this was a sensitive, intuitive person who could potentially be the shaman of that tribe. And they would take that, instead of casting them aside, they would take that person in and heal them and train them and walk them through what they were experiencing, to potentially be the next shaman of that village. But they're given the care and the love that they need. Our mentally ill end up homeless on the street because the root of their illness is not being addressed. It's a spiritual affliction. And these are the people that are the most sensitive, that are the most connected in, that have the most potential, but our dense and materialistic society isn't allowing for their healing or their growth. They're just pigeonholing them into this box, and this is what you are, and you're sick, and there's something wrong with you, when really they're just sensitive people that are tapping into the spirit world and don't know it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I will definitely check him out, Jerry Marzinski. Yeah.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul. Do you guys have any questions? So what the higher self said in that session was that these recycled souls are also what's contributing to the rise in mental illness and cancer, and probably other chronic illnesses as well. Some are more susceptible. And they also said sometimes they come to a point of no return, where the soul is just so degraded that yeah, I guess it's difficult to bring it back.
Yeah. Or in this case, in his case, like, we were able to heal the soul, but now we have to work with an unhealthy body.
Yeah.
So to integrate that, the vibration is not the same.
Right.
So there's a lot of intervention that needs to be done in that case. It's not just like a soul thing too, it's everything else that comes with the human vessel.
Right. Mind, body, and soul. The
Everything.
body and the mind, because the mind is now creating with all the belief systems that it has, right? And the patterns and the projections and the things like that. So the mind definitely. Oh, yeah. You said a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't want us to get like really bogged down with the weight of this kind of topic. I really, the point is, like, how do we get out of here? How do we not get recycled back in and stuck in that trap? What do you think?
How do we not?
How do we not?
I don't think we'll ever really, really know. But that, well, they say intention is everything. I would like to think that when I get out of here, I'm going to take my sword with me and I'm going to slash whatever is there, even if it's my family, even if it's whoever. And I'm just going to have to get a hostage and be like, show me where the exit is. I don't know, like, I keep thinking of like the Truman Show, like at the end, like when he's finally able to get out of his own prison, and there's literally an exit at the door, at the back of the wall. I don't know where we have to go. I think this is why we're working with the darkness. It's so that we can navigate the darkness when we get out of here, because I think this is it. Like, we're just going to be seeing everything. All the filters and veils are going to be gone at that point when we're dead. So we have to go see where we have to go. So if you see a light, I don't think that's where it is. So that's too easy.
Right.
It's too easy. So I don't know. I think we have to do a lot of work in here within ourselves so that we can literally like vibrate and you know,
Eject out.
all the way out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
well, it's interesting. You know, in the secret gospel of John, Jesus talks about this trap, and he says, you know, the truth will set you free. So knowing the truth of this system and not being a victim to it again. Remember, I think we were exploring a past lifetime for someone else. So you were a surrogate. We were exploring past lifetime for someone else. And I asked to follow you to see where we went, right? And we went into some kind of weird space with like Bergen-like entities.
oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That was astral.
Yeah.
Right?
We went right into the astral, and Mary, our guy, Mary Magdalene said, I asked like, well, right, because you followed the light. She followed the light into this space where all these entities.
I'm bringing my knife.
And I was like, well, how did we get here? And Mary was like, well, you shouldn't have followed the light. I'm like, well,
right. It's all trickery. I think it's just, that's the whole lesson of it all too. It's to be like, you're not going to be manipulated anymore.
right.
I think that's the ultimate thing too, that you will not be manipulated. You'll just know, I feel like your soul will just know where to go.
Yeah.
Once you are in alignment with the absolute truth that you can get out of here, that you don't need to be prisoner here. I think that even if you are to go to the conveyor belt and be like, get me the fuck out of here, they'd have to show you, right?
I think they do. I think
they would. Like, I don't think people ask.
Right. Nobody's asking. They're just taking the conveyor belt.
Yeah. like in a, like, what's it called? The airport, just like waiting.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, that's what I was saying. So I saw it was a hypnosis session. And remember the one with the Moloch type being?
Mm-hmm.
It was a Moloch type being, like above the dome.
Oh.
And he was the gatekeeper of this realm, letting people in and out, souls or whatever, spirits. And that was just his job. In the way, so this person who was having the hypnosis session was viewing this, and the way she was seeing him as if, you know, he wasn't necessarily good or bad, but he was kind of like both. And he was just doing his job, and his job was to be the gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
But so we might be faced with gatekeepers. And if we are, in the secret gospel of, or the apocalypse of James, Jesus, you know, there's a lot of kind of missing pieces in that, which I don't know if it's purposeful or not, but it's interesting. When Jesus is telling James exactly what to say to these gatekeepers in order to get out and back to the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys haven't read that, there's a first and second Apocalypse of John. Read that, because Jesus says in his own world, like, what to say to them as you're exiting if you're presented with a gatekeeper.
I need to memorize that.
Yeah.
I have like a paper and be like,
there are some missing words, but the gist of it is, he says, you know, I belong to the true one. I don't belong here. This is not my world, basically, is what you're saying. This is not my world. I belong to the true one. And I'm going to go back there. I'm going to go back there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's what the image I just saw too was like, you know, Ashiana Dean talks about this being the fallen system, right? This system is a mimicked version of the true creation. This isn't the true creation. That's the whole point.
And on top of that, as you say, is a mimicked version. We're creating a mimic with the metaverse.
Yes.
So going deep into the inception, very far away from where we need to go.
Mhm.
So something to consider. If you don't know anything about the metaverse, you go watch our video about us talking about that. And we do offer like to release you from the metaverse,
Yeah.
pulling them plugs and releasing all the downloads because they've been downloading a lot of information for a very long time. If you have any connection to the internet, there's a lot of like information there that they've already gathered on you.
Yeah, Paul, I think that might be true too. I think Jesus was alluding to that. Tell them you're the Christ. Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions? Anything else we want to talk about? Let me see. Do you have anything on your list?
Let's see here.
And, a lot of this is based on consent. So we do, when we're planning these lives with these light beings, we're giving consent to this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's not like there's some ugly, archonic looking entities.
They look like angels
and spirit guides.
They
Yeah.
look beautiful, and they will lead like the love, the what you want, what you're looking for. But again, when you start to feel that love, have that back voice. Is that real? Is that true? Does it just feel good to me because that's what I'm looking for? Are they just giving me what I want?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The thing on the list is we covered it all.
Okay.
But how to
Right.
question things? Yeah, just question it. All of it.
Yeah.
If you're meditating and a being comes, slash it. Have no fear and slash it.
Use your sword.
Use your sword. They won't get offended.
If it's an organic, true Christed being,
They won't get offended.
they won't get offended.
They'll welcome it, and at least it'll be like, okay, I tried everything. Look into their eyes. Look at them. And then feel into yourself about how that makes you feel. Does it feel genuine? Does it feel good? And if it does,
It might feel good.
slash them. Slash them. And if they come back to form and you still feel that whole thing, then you can proceed. But again, it's process. It's a process, and don't worry, because like for me, I remember like before we would do RSR sessions, I would connect with my guides and I would have to go through a whole protection protocol. And when I would come down to it and meeting the guides, sometimes it would take so long, like almost half an hour for me to do it. And the lesson of that was, don't rely on us. Rely on you. That's it.
Right.
You're protected. You know what you're doing. If you don't feel comfortable, that's your boundary. I'm not comfortable with that. That's it. Just say it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, don't feel bad like for creating boundaries with spirit beings too, just like you do with people.
Well, you should.
We should be having I mean, this is really a lesson in how to be sovereign for humanity, not only within our physical world, but in the spiritual world as well. That's where it's even more important, because everything trickles down from there. And if we're not sovereign there, it's going to affect our physical reality as well.
Yes.
So really, your sovereignty is really the most important thing and the most important lesson for humanity as a whole. And, we see so many people just giving away their sovereignty, giving away their power outside of them. Like this whole thing with the war that's happening now is purposefully created for you to give over your consent and your consent for them to go to war. That's what they're looking for. They're trying to create this emotional trigger for you to give over your sovereignty. Yeah. And none of it's real. The same people are behind both sides, and they're creating this just to cause more trauma in the collective so they can feed from it.
And divide.
Yeah. Now everybody's like, support Ukraine. Ukraine is just as corrupt as Russia and vice versa. Like they're two sides of the same coin.
Everywhere. There's corruption everywhere, and it's the same thing, like it all happened with the COVID. One, you're pro or not, or anti, and mask and no mask, blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing.
Right.
They're just going more out and moving somewhere else. And I question that too, because they're, the whole world is focused on this. So what the fuck are they doing over there? What's happening over there?
Yeah. What
was that?
I have no idea.
Oh. Yeah. So we have to be looking everything, not just like pay attention to where your focus is on. Pay attention where your energy is being given to. How much of yourself are you giving to someone because you really want to badly help them? You want to give so much of yourself to save them. I'm sorry, but you can't save anyone. Let me just put that again. You can't save anyone. Save yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of your own traumas. Take care of your own stuff. That way you can hold space for whoever you want to do the same, or to be the way shower. You show them the way.
Yeah. One thing for me too is I kind of released this idea that somehow we're the saviors of humanity. Like somehow like we're supposed to be helping the collective shift in consciousness.
That collective ain't shifting. They're so sitting on their ass like couch potatoes. They're not doing anything. They're just watching the news and getting fed the program when there's millions of chemicals, going through their body and even keeping them even more stagnant and in place to obey.
Yeah.
No one's moving.
Yeah. So a lot of us, as spiritual people think that, we're here this is our mission, right? We have this big mission to help the collective.
I fell for it. We fell for it. I'm admitting that we fell for it. But then you have to see as time moves, is it really moving? Is there really information that's coming out? Like, oh, something big's going to happen. We all say that something big's going to happen. Well, I'm waiting for it. Still, it's been a long time now. I'm waiting for these big things, how do they call it? Like, how do they say
event?
Yeah, the event. It's this fucking event that we RSVP to like in 2020, and I'm still waiting.
2020, people have been waiting since like 2012
for me. That's when I started hearing about this like event thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Like when we were really trapped and having to just like drowning ourselves in internet because we couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, the event, the solar flash, like all those ideas.
It's true, because there's tons of people who were saying like they had their awakening like back in the day.
Back in the
day before we were even born, and they're still waiting. And it's just like, do you not see the pattern? Holding on to this idea that something big is going to happen when we're all sitting on our asses waiting for it to happen.
Meanwhile, like the Greys takeover of humanity is well underway.
Oh God, it's so well
underway.
Yeah, we can't really talk about it because they're going to censor us again.
Yeah.
But it's happening. There's so much takeover, so much possession, and we talk about like how we, as humans, and there's so many races, and I'm not talking about blacks, whites, and Asians, etc. Blah blah blah. I'm talking about alien races coming here and actually in human form. Those races. There's a lot of fuckery. A lot.
Yeah.
And you could even see it in people's faces. Like when we watch videos sometimes, we're just like, whoa, she looks like a reptile. Like you could see it. You could see. And some people's physical appearances have shifted since they've been channeling for a couple of years now. There's one in particular that I was just like, oh my God, why are her eyes so far apart? Like they've moved, it shifted. Like physical changes because they're merging into your DNA, and so it's morphing.
Right, because when you are channeling a being outside of you, you are allowing them inside your body, your sovereign vessel. It is no longer sovereign when you're allowing other entities to take it over and speak through you. You're merging with their DNA, and that's the whole agenda. That's the whole agenda. People don't get it. Like these aliens are trying to merge with humanity to take us over.
Yeah, we're almost at the end when our pitch went higher by a notch.
I know.
But Anyway, we said a mouthful, but we would love to hear your input, your opinions, your experiences.
Respectfully.
Yes, please.
Respectfully.
Because again, we're not here to
tell you what
debate.
to do.
We're not here to debate. We're not here to tell you what to do. Again, we're speaking from our own experiences. And this is from our own observations. Just looking and not attaching, just like really observing how things have moved.
Yeah.
And based on our own experiences and our clearings and sessions.
Yeah.
So
we've had a lot of information come through, over 500 sessions in 2 years. That's a lot.
I know. Crazy.
It's a lot of information. I mean, so much, like it's even hard to talk about, like to summarize, you know, like, but yeah, I always say that too, you know, like you don't have to hold on to any one belief. It's kind of like you're just juggling things, seeing how they feel to you, you know, and you don't have to decide. You don't have to have an opinion on everything.
No,
you really don't.
You could. It's okay to say I don't know.
I don't know.
We don't know sometimes. You know, like whatever we just said today is we really don't know.
Right.
The end game. I mean, we just know what we've gathered, and we could see it through our own observation, it unfolding and happening, and how it resonates or how it feels inside, like when we receive the information. Right. And then if it sounds fishy, thankfully we're able to question that and be like, what do you think that was?
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
Right.
And that's what you need to do.
Because like I said, like, you know, a lot of people go to channelers for this, you know, high vibration, feel good information. And, you know, most of them aren't really telling you any truth. There's nothing of substance there. It's really just like recycled.
It's all word salad.
Right. Because the truth of what's actually happening in this reality right now is not easy to hear.
No,
from what I've seen in our sessions and my own research, the ultimate agenda is really this takeover of humanity that is well underway.
Oh, and it's already happened. I mean,
yeah.
Especially with the rollout of all the injectable chemicals, you see how much of the people have it, and so that's already part of it.
Yeah, it is. It's part of it.
And yeah, it's more like, you know how we said, like they're putting fluoride in our water, and we're you know, breathing all the chemicals and all the things, but this is like straight up like in the body and really
genetic manipulation.
Yes, and
genetic manipulation.
Yeah, and we gotta watch that video of that guy who that we saw yesterday. You know, he was talking about like we could hack humans.
Yeah,
another topic. I don't even know. Like, we're just talking about degraded souls, but like hacking people, that's something else.
Yeah, for mind control. And he was saying that, oh God, the way he was talking was just like humans are just like
we're just experimentation.
Yeah.
And they don't give a shit. They don't care about what you're going through. They don't care about if you're a good person or not. They just don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. It's like also in that part of seeing, not being naive, because I was like that too. Again, I thought people were good. Majority, I really believed in that. I do, like, you know, we do come in contact with people and you feel them genuine, but you also see how they are so traumatized. So, you know, you have to kind of have a boundary there too. Even if they feel genuine, you have to have a boundary.
Yeah.
Because everyone's just getting their needs met, and however they have to do to get that done.
Right. Yeah, I really believed people were good too. And that's really that was the root of all of my suffering, is not having discernment and understanding that not everybody was good and people were actually doing things intentionally to hurt you. And
yeah, it's messed up. Like really messed up. Like when you can't wrap your head around it because you would never do that.
Right. You don't think that way.
You don't think that way. Exactly. You don't think that way. And to think that that's happening, but then on a grander scheme, you're just like, whoa, how almost everything has been fabricated. Everything that we've ever watched on the TV, on the news, or that they've shown us has been somehow manipulated or whatever. You can't take everything, the history of everything, as the absolute truth.
Right. And even other, you know, hypnosis practitioners, you know, supporting this idea of genetic modification.
Yeah, what's that?
I,
That's part of that's them going to 5D, maybe. Because that you're anchoring yourself into the meta that way. That's one way.
yeah. But to see, like, I mean, even, prominent people that have had like tons of sessions with people and have seen like the genetic modification of these beings by the Greys specifically, or the reptilians, and like to think that's a good thing. No, that's not.
That's not organic at all.
That's not organic at all. That's not how humanity is supposed to evolve, but this is what's happening. And I think that is the ultimate agenda, is for them to merge, because what we've learned is that these entities don't have their own souls. They have bodies and minds, but no soul. So they need the human soul to continue to exist after death.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they're doing this genetic modification, to be able to merge with the humans.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then if you get caught into the meta, then your soul is entrapped there too. So it's another system that you're trapped in and never get out. I said that.
That sounded bleak.
Well, just be aware. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but no, AI is a huge problem. AI is a huge problem. And we're just, clicking, downloading apps and clicking on consent for their terms and agreements and not reading them. And we don't know what we're agreeing to. Again, it's about consent.
And how lazy we've become to not read anything.
Right.
Yeah, it's all part of, like, again, with the fast forward of technology and just move, go, 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 go. No one has time to read 10 pages of terms and agreement.
Right.
And no one will.
Mm-mm.
Maybe one in whatever, a big number.
Right.
Will.
But yeah, AI is like at the head of it all, really ushering in this
Archon.
Yeah, this new age of transhumanism. That's what the new age is. The new age is of transhumanism. New age.
Okay. Well,
that's real.
Yeah. It is. So
that's actually real.
I guess we'll just wrap this up.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you to everybody who has come on and participated.
That's exactly who it was.
Yeah.
Yuval Harari. Humans are hackable animals. Yep. That's exactly that one.
We are.
We are.
We are, until you are not.
And right.
So that's it. It's just observe.
Yeah, like we've talked about in our other, because that's another whole like world of what we've seen in our sessions with
we've
the
split off in different ways.
The hacking and the world wide web of people that they're creating, and the that whole system. Because and the Bluetooth stuff that we can't talk about on YouTube.
We've seen a lot, and we've seen it firsthand in our own selves. Like, it's not just videos that we've seen. We have seen them there, and then we tested it on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's real. It's happening, and it's we just have to keep our eyes open and be hyper vigilant about how you're being manipulated, how we're being manipulated, and how easy it is to be manipulated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to remain sovereign, protect your energy, be careful of what and who you're giving your energy to. Make sure you keep energetic boundaries, even when you're watching things online. Whoever you're watching, you're exchanging energy with. So make sure you put around, your boundaries. Just use the light, your own light from your heart, and put a boundary around you, a bubble around you, an invisibility cloak, with the intention that I will not exchange energy with this person I'm watching, or with this video. I do not consent. Because if you're watching, like, say, something that's violent, which probably a lot of you don't, but just in case, just for an example, if you're watching something that's violent or something that violates the rights of humanity, and you're watching that, you're consenting to that. That's how they get our consent, tacitly. So unless you're saying, like, actively saying, like, I do not consent to this fuckery, then
it's like before we watch Netflix together, I get really emotionally involved a lot of the time, and I'm just like, it's hard for me to detach. So I always have to, like, put up my thing. I'm like, I don't consent to this information coming through.
Yeah, because they're tricky about how they get your consent. It's not just they never tell you upfront, like
Never.
ever.
Again, it's part of the manipulation. So it's just being aware of that, how they can get you, how, like it's in any way. And sometimes even if you don't consent, they don't give a shit. So just knowing that. So observe yourself, observe your behavior, observe how other people like that come into your life are, because that could also cause a reaction out of you purposefully by orchestrated by them. So it happens
Yeah.
in so many ways.
Yeah. When I had my run-in with Satan and a couple of years ago, was that like 2017, I think?
Yeah,
2017.
17 or 18. 18.
He told me, and of course, you know, Satan doesn't come in with his pitchfork and horns. Satan came as a beautiful man with bright blue eyes, nicely dressed, you know, looked human, all of those things. And, but you can tell, you can feel the energy. Now, somebody might get tricked by that because he looked nice, but I could feel that he wasn't. I could feel this undercurrent of, um, God, what would you call that? Just, it's not, it was off. It was just off.
You just don't feel it. It just don't feel genuine. That's it.
Oh, Serena's here.
Serena?
Unfuckable. She's
Oh, hi, Serena. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Just letting you know, if you think I've disappeared on Facebook, I am. Like I'm not on anymore. So just saying.
Yeah, I don't really post much either. But he said to me, we send you low vibrational people so that you can't do your light work.
Why'd you look at me? True. Working on it.
No, but yeah, they used to work through her too, to create feelings of like,
oh God, I was such a mess. They took advantage of that. Like all my vulnerabilities, all the problems. I'm very like, again, mental. I have mental problems and a lot of trauma. So yeah, they take advantage of me in that way because they know that my vulnerability is my mental.
yeah. But yeah, so they will work through other people to get to you. Like that's how the matrix works. It uses everything it can to kind of like trickle in and create those like tangly webs. Yeah, so protect yourself. Let's set up a protection for everyone right now. Just imagine that the light from your heart is expanding out, filling up your body. Just breathing and allowing your body to relax. Filling up all of your cells with the light from your heart. And then just expanding and pushing that light out around you in all directions, like a big bubble around you. And that light gets stronger and brighter with each breath that you take. Creating a really solid and impenetrable bubble. And if you want to take it further, you can even expand that light further and fill up the entire room. And around that, a good practice to use is just to place an invisibility cloak around that light. So, whatever that looks like to you, just having the intention to be invisible to all energies that are less than unconditional love. And really feeling your power, knowing that you are invincible, you are a sovereign being of light. And with your protection, it's important to ground yourself to the earth. So just imagine that your roots are growing out from every part of your body, growing down into the earth and all the way to the center of the planet. Anchoring into the core of Mother Earth. I'm feeling that connection. And allowing the energy of the earth to come back up through your roots and into the body. And as it begins to flow into the body, begin to feel heavier and heavier. And now that you are grounded and protected, you feel so safe, so stable, so strong. And sovereign. So it's a really simple practice for grounding and protecting, and you can reinforce that at least twice a day when you wake up in the morning and before you go to bed. Nighttime protection is really important because we're the most vulnerable when we're sleeping. So you definitely want to, close down, protect yourself before you go to sleep, and yeah, do it again in the morning and whenever you think about it too. So, yeah.
We're good. I feel good. So I just want to say thank you again to everybody who had come and joined us for the first time. If you have, we appreciate you all commenting and interacting with us and watching the whole thing. If you have from start to finish, Helen, you're the best. But yeah, if you want to just let us know that you're here, you can, we're going to close it up, but you can comment in the comment section, like the video. We don't want you to subscribe, but if you subscribe, thank you for that. And we appreciate you guys spreading the word. Whoever that was on the Reddit, because these are really important topics that we all need to start talking about. We need to shift the perception and talking about like what's behind all the deception. So that we can better understand ourselves and how we can get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
All right. So we're just sending you all of our love and appreciation, so much gratitude. And if ever you want to shoot us a message, you can write us via our email at quantumhealingwithtina@gmail.com. Tina is Tena. You could check out our website, quantumhealingwithtina.com. And you can write us there too. And yeah, just stay with it. Stay with it. Stay on track. Check in with yourselves at every turn. Don't be afraid. I think that's the thing, we don't want to like throw on all that information and you're afraid or you're too paranoid or you're like, am I doing it right? Is that okay? It's just come into yourself and feel it. Really like taking a step back, like, and just feeling through it. And if you don't know, then just close that door. You don't have to continue.
Yeah. We're really glad you found our channel too, Sam G. And
yeah, thank you.
Hi, Rainbow Mouse.
Heart.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Paul, for being here. Yes, you're going to keep integrating. It's going to be, you have a lot of integration time to go and you're going to get a lot of insights. So
yeah.
That's it.
All righty. Well, thanks so much, guys. And we'll see you next time. Big love to you.
Bye.